Okay, so you got a denial letter on your initial application for Social Security disability. Um, and you probably don't understand everything in it. And one of the things you're asking about is what does this mean? They're saying that um, uh, they find that there is not enough evidence to find me disabled before the date of January 1st, 2020, my date last insured. What does that mean? Okay, so what it means is the evidence that they got that you presumably put into your application, or the disability report portion of your application, did not meet to their satisfaction the applicable proof standard to show that you would be unable to meet the definition of disabled, which is, basically you're unable to work full-time at an occupation that exists in substantial numbers in the national and regional economy, any of them. And there's like over 12,000. So they're saying the evidence that you submitted was all from, had to be before 1/1/2020, because that was your date last insured, and that evidence was not strong enough. Now, sometimes, this doesn't mean that you necessarily can't win your case, so don't feel like you have to not appeal. It could be that you only put down your current doctors, and we're in 2023, or back when you filed, maybe it was 2022. Think about what you put in your application. If you didn't keep a copy of what you gave them, that's a little bit of a problem. You can try to ask them for it so you know what you put in. If you get an attorney, the attorney would have had it for you, but if you get one, he or she may be able to get that also. In fact, should be able to electronically, I think, once they're connected. But you give it thought. If you're going pro se, did you put down all the doctors from before 1/1/2020 when your insurance ran out? We have another video, or a few of them, on the date less insured and what that means. If you didn't, definitely appeal and include that missed information. Like I said, some people just put who their current doctors are, and that's insufficient, because if their current doctors didn't treat them at the relevant time when they had to prove they became disabled, I would also, and you might want to get the evidence yourself, requests from those medical providers, things that, let's say oh gosh, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a scenario. You were injured in 2019, but for whatever reason, your date last insured was 2020. But you had very severe medical problems prior there too, but you didn't include that either. Maybe you only thought about your injury. Whatever is not in there, I would go back. If your alleged onset date is 2018, if you had anything other than a perfect 20-year-old body prior to that, with no issues with any joints or systems in your body at all, aside from that, I would go back a couple of years. If you had problems that are not necessarily 10 years, although there are exceptions, it's kind of hard. It's a case-by-case basis about how far we should go back. SSA, when they're running the show, like if you don't have a lawyer or you're not submitting evidence yourself, you're just telling them about it, they usually don't like to go back more than a year, maybe 2. So sometimes that older stuff is really important. It would be important for me to see, because let's say you had arthritis in your hands that you just weren't really treating for after a while. It would tell me that I got to tell you, go get that followed up on, because that is going to be relevant now, but they're not going to know about it, and you're going to have no current evidence with which to prove it. Because believe it or not, arthritis in the hands eliminates some of those many jobs we have to eliminate. So yeah, the DLI with that window, that is what they're telling you, is that you lack the information in your file from what you told them. Now, your denial letter will also tell them in a very vague format what medical evidence they got on you. And you can also look there and see if they missed something. Sometimes if it's old stuff, they didn't get it because the doctors didn't have it or didn't send it. And, there's so many reasons why. So you want to make sure everything's on the up and up. But that's what they're saying. Your evidence had to exist before your date last insured, and that's the date they provided you, and you didn't have that. So you didn't have any substantial proof that you became fully disabled by that date. Again, not necessarily fatal. It depends on the case, but we see it a lot. A remote DLI is unfortunate, but it can be, with the right scenario, it can be a one case. Not always, but with the right scenario. The remote DLI really prevents you from being able to go to the doctor today to prove a past fact. So there are things to change your DLI. That's another video. If you want to become reinsured again and then file for Social Security disability, totally possible. Now, there are also instances where you can't win on an SSD claim anymore, but if you're poor enough, you could file for SSI. So don't leave that out of the mix either. So read up on that or ask. And I wish you all the best. But we'll try to see what the other the call-ins we're getting about what does this mean when I got denied and they say this. I'll try to make a little video on those. But the big one about the remote DLI, that's important for you to know, because it might just be that they didn't have all the evidence that existed then, because maybe you didn't share it all. Okay, you didn't know. Okay, now you do.